Previously on What a Predicament. I was caught in this tree branch dangling over the edge of a particularly perilous cliff face. And now, I'm still here. Why do you think I haven't been able to put out a podcast in like a year? Well, to paraphrase a motivational poster I saw once, podcasts like nobody's listening. Should be easy with my download numbers. LeBron James, I am not. I mean, he got like 61 against Charlotte in 2014.
Welcome to the podcast. Got a theme song at last. Even got a guy to play his guitar. Now I need to come up with the words to sum up what the show is about, and I'm stuck. What a predicament.
Hello, this is What a Predicament, back for a third season, 10 all-new predicaments. I'm Alex, and you're listening to my podcast, What a Predicament, a podcast that picks at the predicaments of the modern day and age like the half-healed scabs that they are. Now, I've no way of knowing how you're listening to this, but to set the scene for today's predicament, I hope you have some headphones. If this is one of those times at a party where someone hands you the aux cord and you're like, oh man, I have to impress everyone by playing this awesome podcast, then finally Ashley will notice me. Well, for reasons I'll get into later, the phonic predicament I want to examine today doesn't work through speakers. You're going to want headphones, so sorry if I just blew things with Ashley for you, but come on man, who puts on a podcast at a party? Anyway, this is what we're talking about.
It's one of those words that you kind of have trouble saying really fast in a row. Like, cupcake, 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 cupcake.
That was ASM artist, Fast ASMR. How did that make you feel? Would you describe the last 20 seconds as brain-gasmic? I mean, it's probably an unfair question because that word describes every single moment of my podcast, so it doesn't exactly narrow it down. But that's today's predicament, ASMR. Media created to elicit a very specific tingle in a special place, the brain. Sounds great, but they ASM aren't working for me. To delve deeper into the phenomenon of ASMR, I want to introduce my co-host. What, a co-host? Yep, a couple of seasons in now, I figure, what have I got to lose? The perfect co-host can only help. I've got nowhere to go but up. So each episode this season, I'm going to try out a different co-host to see with whom sparks fly. And if that's what I'm looking for, there's a very obvious place to start. I am joined by someone who's not only already offered a lot of feedback on how I could do my job better, but she's an ASMR aficionado herself. She was the subject of episode 19 of the podcast. She is my fiancée, my lover, and today my co-host, Marissa Holder. Hi.
You're making me blush. Hello.
Oh, it's a podcast. Luckily, no one can see it. Are you ready to talk ASMR?
I certainly am.
Have you been waiting your whole life for this?
Yes. I've been doing a lot of research, actually.
Cool.
And it's been very relaxing.
That makes one of us. Even the research is relaxing.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm kind of in the dark. I've been doing a little bit of reading up on this topic, but you will know better than I, having been consuming ASMR videos for a while. What is ASMR?
So ASMR stands for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response. So basically,
it's kind of all in the name, isn't it?
Yeah. Basically, what it means is it's previously called a brain orgasm, but ASMR is less sexual, so that's why the name has changed to ASMR. It's the tingling sensation you get down the back of your neck when someone's breathing next to you or whispering next to you. It's a pleasant, nice, comforting, calming sensation. Yes, that's basically it. It's not complicated, but some people can feel it and some people can't.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've given it a go and I've never felt the experience. I mean, what was your history with ASMR? When did you first hear that it was a thing?
Well, I was actually doing a Skype interview for a job teaching English in Korea when the interviewer, because we're both huge, we're both on Reddit quite a bit, and I guess that's how
What's
we
your
connected.
username on there?
No. You're not gonna... But yeah, as soon as I mentioned Reddit, she said, "Have you heard of ASMR? Do you get the sensation?" I was like, "Wow, that's a very strange question for in an interview."
In a job interview situation, you're thinking, what if I answer wrong? So you're like, yes.
But yeah, I was just like, yes, I definitely get that. Wow, I didn't know. I mean, I guess other people get it, but it hasn't really been anything I've thought about. And she said, yeah, there's a whole subreddit dedicated to posting videos to induce this sensation. I was
This
like,
tingling spine feeling.
yeah. And I was like, cool, I'll check it out. I don't really think much of it, but you know, when I couldn't sleep one night, I just decided to check it out just to see if it worked, and it did, and I've been hooked ever since. So the very first ASMR video, an individual by the username of OKWhatever started a forum thread at the website www.steadyhealth.com. So the title of the thread was "Weird Sensation Feels Good," and it attracted over 300 replies. And so the content of these initial replies quickly created a clear and consistent description of ASMR, which still accurately describes ASMR today. That paragraph was just blatantly copied from asmruniversity.com. But yeah, that was the first ever ASMR video.
Because it sounds like there's plenty of things that induce that sensation unintentionally. It just happens. Random triggers in the real world, because I guess we should say ASMR isn't the name of the sound or whatever. ASMR is the response. It's the R in the name. It's how it makes you feel, and the things that activate it are called triggers. So obviously it goes back even further than that particular video. Like the first example I could find was someone, and it's not confirmed because the author herself didn't say, but someone had pointed out there's a 1925 novel by Virginia Woolf and Mrs. Dalloway, and there's a paragraph in there where a nurse is speaking to a guy who's her patient, and it's the way she's speaking is described as deeply, softly, like a mellow organ, but with a roughness in her voice like a grasshopper's, which rasped his spine deliciously and sent running up into his brain waves of sound. And for 1925, it sounds like most people say to this day that's a fairly accurate representation of what's happening.
Yes, rasped his spine deliciously. Wow. Whoa. Yes, I would say that's definitely accurate.
Some people experience it, some people don't. So I wanted to go to a source who could actually tell us scientifically what's happening in the brain or in the body. So I quickly phoned up the head of the audiology department at Auckland University here in Aotearoa to figure out what is going on. Professor Grant Searchfield.
It's quite interesting. You go online and you find so many YouTube clips about ASMR. You would think that it's almost like something that people have known about and been experimenting with for a long time. But from a science perspective, it's a relatively new phenomenon. There are only a few groups that really are looking at this seriously in a scientific manner. What we do know is that it seems to be related to an overactivity or increased connectivity with regions of the brain that are associated with emotion in response to sound. So there are some studies that have had a look at this phenomenon with regards to brain scanning and looking at the various regions of the brain that are involved and that are activated to the sorts of things that create this response for individuals. So there does seem to be a real brain basis for this. But as you can imagine, the brain's a difficult thing to study at times, and so piecing out all the aspects and pulling it all together is proving difficult. Well, people are also looking at it from a perspective of, can it be used as an aid to psychotherapy? So this elicits quite a strong positive response for people. Can you combine it in a manner that is useful in a therapy perspective as well? So there's a little bit of work emerging to explore that. Our interest is really, what is happening in the brain and what is eliciting it, and does it happen more if you're sad or if you're happy? These sorts of things, to try and really begin to piece it out a bit. Some of the other work has also indicated that certain personalities are more likely to express this than others as well.
So you're saying there have been results where you've actually seen brain activity flare up when people experience it. So it's not a psychosomatic thing, it's an actual, something's happening.
It's a real thing happening in the brain. So what's really showing up, I think, is areas of the brain that are associated with emotion being more strongly connected up to regions of the brain that are associated with processing sound. So what also I think might show up in future studies is the link in with the somatosensory system, which is our system of touch and feeling. And for us to experience a tingling sensation or a elation with the response to sound, each of these regions of the brain must be active in response to sound. So there does appear to be some sort of increase in activity. It's certainly not people's imagination. There's a real thing happening.
And on the topic of the emotional response, how is ASMR different to, say, the wave of emotion you might feel if you just listen to a really beautiful piece of music, like a Townes Van Zandt or infamous Mobb Deep song? Is it the same thing?
Well, that's possibly a question that hasn't been fully answered. Certainly it appears there may be two different type of effects going on, even with the feeling of shivers or sensations down the spine. Some seem to be longer lasting and evoked more by listening to a piece of music that we might enjoy, as opposed to there being something, a trigger point that almost leads to an involuntary reaction. So I think that one may be almost more like a reflex action than the other, but typically it does tend to be sounds that seem to be quite intimate to the individual, if you like, that there might be sounds that we experience when the sound, the object that's making the sound is physically close to us. And I think that this is why whispering is, a frequent elicitor of the response, because we almost, if somebody's whispering to us, we almost expect to feel their breath on our neck, and that sort of reaction is possibly even learned, that if we hear a whispering sound, we might expect to feel something as well. So there's probably a combination of factors involved there. It does seem to be a fairly common experience, and the number of people that know about ASMR or have heard about it is surprisingly high.
Some people seem to experience it very strongly, and other people it does nothing for. Like, my fiance loves it and is who introduced the whole concept to me, but I've never managed to hear any of the clips she's shown me that have actually triggered any sort of response in myself. Do we have any theories on why it might not affect everyone in the same way?
Well, if we have a look at the personality aspect, which there's some indication that certain personality types react more than others, and we also extend it out to consider other auditory phenomena, there's a huge range of responses generally to sound. So the negative side of things, where individuals have a dislike of sound, some people have very strong negative association and reaction to a particular sound, where other people will just be completely oblivious that it really has any meaning at all. So there are individual differences in our perception of sound. Whether they are innate or whether we in fact learn these is something we don't know. It's possibly a combination of us being a particular type and a learning associations between sounds. One argument that I've put forward is that people that have quite a strong reaction to sound, either positive or negative, may, if you like, if we were in a very survival type of environment, might be those ones that actually survive because their hearing system is attuned to react and respond to sounds, while those that are pretty chilled about the whole sound thing may be more likely to actually happen to fall prey to some animal lurking in the bushes. Now, whether the sort of evolutionary concept has any merit, I'm not so sure, but there does certainly seem to be a wide variation in both the sounds that will elicit the ASMR, but also individuals' response. And as you say, some people really don't have any response, while some people will have quite a euphoric and really pronounced response.
Huh. And lastly, does ASMR do anything for you personally?
Well, I've tried. I mean, to be honest, some of the YouTube clips I've watched kind of freak me out just because of the personalities that are involved as opposed to listening to the sounds. No, not particularly strong. There are some sounds that I sort of feel a little bit, but I would say I'm on pretty much the weak side of the ASMR spectrum. But I've talked to a number of our students and our research folk who get a really strong reaction to it. And we're really looking forward to a study that we're undertaking to see if we can modify that in some way through emotional sounds before they're exposed to the ASMR stimuli.
And what study is that you're currently undertaking?
Yeah. So this study is a thesis topic for a student, and what we're trying to see whether people are exposed to a set of very standard positive emotional sounds that aren't associated with ASMR. If we expose them to these sounds and then we expose them to the ASMR, do we get more or less response to the ASMR stimuli? The idea here is that we're trying to explore that emotional tie-in with the sound. So if people are feeling happy and positive, is that more or less likely to actually result in the ASMR? And this may inform whether, in fact, using ASMR for people that are feeling down or depressed may have an avenue, or whether it's really just heightening an existing sense of happiness.
Cool. And what's the time frame in that? Do you know when you might expect to conclude that particular piece of research?
Yep. Well, we hope to have that all wrapped up by early next year. So hopefully by March next year, the student will have submitted, and hopefully we'll have some interesting results.
We should touch base then and see what we came up with. I say we as if I'm somehow contributing, but that's fine. Hey, thanks very much, Grant. It's nice to get a scientific point of view on this because my co-host and I are just wildly speculating, so at least there'll be a couple of facts in this.
Yeah, well, I think at the moment, a little bit of wild speculation wouldn't hurt in this area because it really is uncharted space, and what it actually is and what it means and how it can be used is still a bit of a mystery. So it's good to get people's thoughts on it.
Oh, what are your thoughts on that? Did you learn anything?
I learned so much. I guess we should probably cover where you can find ASMR, what it is, all that sort of thing, how it's produced.
Reddit, I hear. Or YouTube.
Yeah, definitely YouTube. So on Reddit, people post links from YouTube. So to make a good ASMR video, you need the oral and the visual aspect. You can't really have one without the other.
Is that the case?
Yeah.
For some reason I always thought it was more of the audio thing was what was doing it, and I guess in terms of, you talk about it being an immersive experience where you can feel like you're there with the person who's making it.
Well, perhaps. I guess you do have a few videos, but more often than not, it's definitely a combination of both. So the idea is to trick you as the viewer into believing that you're there in the room with the ASMR artist. And so the more successful they are at this, the stronger the ASMR sensation will be.
And there's lots of different things they'll do, right? Like he said whispering is a big one, and from the clips I've clicked around on, it seems like that is the bulk of it. And that has actually got a proper scientific background. Like, there was only really been a couple of ASMR studies, but there was one done at Swansea University where they were trying to describe the sensations associated with ASMR and explore the ways in which it's typically induced. But the very basics. And they found whispering was an effective trigger in 75% of the 400 and odd people that they exposed this to. So it seems like it's the most reliable way of triggering it. So I guess that's why it's represented in how many videos on YouTube use that as a particular thing.
But there will always be that visual component as well. So as the ASMR artist is whispering into their microphone, they will visibly pan side to side in the video and, whisper on one side and then go and whisper on the other side. So the idea is to induce this feeling of closeness, comfort, safety, relaxation. Just allow the world to drift away and forget about your troubles, pretty much.
Do you think that has anything to do, because it's only really come to prominence semi-recently, as in the last 10 years or whatever, and do you think it has anything to do with the internet generation, or people are more likely to stay indoors on gadgets and maybe be less close to people in real life because it's easier to stay indoors and it's easier to have all your friendships online and stuff, and and so maybe there's a sort of intimacy, real life intimacy, that's kind of missing from.
Yeah, I'd definitely agree with that. Like, you'd get the same sort of sensation if you went to a massage parlor, for example. But who has the money?
You get that sensation.
A good, nice, maybe a parlor is the wrong word, but a good masseuse would help you feel relaxed and get you into that zone and probably induce that ASMR sensation. But yeah, I do agree. Like, we're not sitting around in circles plucking daisies and braiding each other's hair, and it's definitely not what 2018 is. We are
and
very
living in big
separate.
family units like they probably used to be.
Yeah, but I certainly don't. So, and also I think there is something to be said about a stranger inducing this feeling. I know that when you
stranger intimacy, like a massage parlor.
Well, maybe. No. I definitely feel that when you massage me, when you whisper into my ear, or it just doesn't happen.
Oh,
yeah. And it's not because you don't create this, circle of safety and whatever. Of course you do. You're my fiance, but it's sort of the unexpected component of it for me anyway. So if, for example, my best friend tried it, that probably wouldn't happen. If someone I work with tried it, probably wouldn't happen if I was close to them.
Someone on a bus or something.
No, I'd be very scared. But no, if it's someone maybe I perhaps work with and didn't really interact with often, and they came and sat down next to me and started to write on a piece of paper next to me and quietly talk through some instructions at work, that would definitely work for me.
Because that was the other thing I wanted to get to, was it's not just whispering. There are lots of other random things. You mentioned one of the first times you personally experienced it was a pencil on a piece of paper or something, and there's something about that scenario that felt very, I don't know, comforting. But there's things like, just going off the list I've got here, listening to quiet, repetitive sounds, particularly from really mundane tasks, like even someone turning the pages of a book. Apparently that is a thing. And eating, that sort of thing, crunching food or slurping.
See, that's interesting what he said about eating, because I hate eating. I hate mouth sounds if it's somebody that I hate. So, for example, my coworker would always eat across, not in my current job, in my previous job,
Shade.
would always eat. And because I didn't like the person very much. It would just drive me insane. And I do get really strong emotional responses to noise. So if it's someone I like who's quietly eating next to me, it would be really relaxing. I'd really enjoy
It's
it.
funny because he did talk about, like there's almost a flip side to people who get a negative response to things. Like, I personally
I bet you don't care.
well,
Just
no,
chill.
but I find chewing kind of annoying. Like, if someone's chewing loudly, it's like, that's disgusting or something. I
Well,
don't know why.
Yeah, I know you said that you don't like white noise or mouth sounds in recordings
that's the-
because of your audio engineer job, right?
Well, that's the funny thing is because I record audio and edit audio every day. To me, when I hear these, there's a lot of, to get these really quiet sounds, they're turning the gain up on the mics really loud so they can get the really subtle, soft voices. So there's this high floor noise. So you've got this hiss in the background, and then you're hearing mouth clicks and saliva, little clicky mouth, what we in the biz, we call mouth noises. And I'm like, no, that's a mistake. Edit that out. I spend lots of time trying to tidy up that stuff, let alone it being the thing people are listening to it for. Maybe I should have just left
This is
it.
definitely the mark of a bad ASMR video.
Well,
It's
just
definitely not
bad audio
supposed to-
engineering.
Yeah, definitely not supposed to have that. So I know there's a few really good microphones in the market. There's the 3Dio, which is a binaural, not a bioral, binaural microphone. So it kind of mimics the way humans hear the natural world, and it's literally two polystyrene or two, I don't know what the ears are made of, but two ears, like plasticky polystyrene ears on either side with microphones in them.
Yeah, because that's to go to like the very basics of recording. You can get a stereo signal, which is basically two different audio channels, one in your left speaker and one in your right, and that's why when you listen to, say, a Jimi Hendrix guitar solo and it goes from one ear to the other, that's what that is, because that's done in mixing. It's recorded, and because you've got two different speakers, you can change, okay, it's 80% in this and 20 in that, and I can move it over to the other one, whereas binaural ones are recorded in a very specific way where it doesn't have the same whole wide stereo field as a stereo recording. It's microphones placed specifically at the same distance apart as the human ears are. So it basically replicates the exact positions that sound would be if you were in the room. So when someone is leaning in over your left shoulder and whispering, it sounds like they're physically 3 inches away from your left ear. It doesn't sound like...
So cool.
Yeah, so it's very specific recording that, and I guess when you talk about trying to make it feel like you're close to this person, that's the thing that does it. And yeah, it's really interesting. I've never experimented with that technology. I don't have a particular microphone, but
They are very expensive. I know that 3Dio, they can range from, I think that the standard is $499 and the most expensive is, I think, $5,500 US. So they're pretty, these ASMR artists really invest some heavy money. But there are some really cool artists out there. They do all
they're
sorts
racking up
of...
millions of views on YouTube,
Yeah,
so they
yeah.
can probably pay for themselves after a while.
Well, I know some of them have Patreon. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah,
Patreon.
Patreon
So you can
subscribers.
just give money to them to continue to make their art. And I'm happy to give money to them. Like, there's this amazing ASMR artist called Goodnight Moon.
What an idea. Someone makes something that people can listen to and enjoy, and somehow people give them money because they like it. That's a weird concept.
Well, I'm happy to give her money. No. But no, she's just gorgeous. So she has all of these scenarios. So I know some of my personal favorite triggers are tapping on boxes, so whispering. I love whispering. Mouth sounds. Watching people touch other people, which is really, I don't know why. So one girl will be brushing another girl's hair really slowly and then just describing what she's going to do next, and just seeing the other person enjoy this whole process it just gives me tingles, and I don't know why. But Goodnight Moon, she's awesome. So what she does is she...
Sorry, is that the one you showed me, she has lots of different scenarios. Like she'll be
Yeah.
a witch, and then she's like a cheerleader, and she's saying, "Oh, Becky, you had such a bad hair day today," or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's
Yeah,
like
she's super
whispering,
funny.
and yeah, it seemed like there
Yeah.
was a lot of production value. Like
Yeah.
when she's mixing a potion, and she's got all this, made an entire room that looks like a witch's coven or whatever.
Yeah, she actually created this whole world from her ASMR videos called the Babblebrook Inn. So she's got the witch character, she's got this little elf character, and she's actually a visual. Oh, she's a makeup artist in real life. That's her full-time job, which is amazing.
She knows how to create aesthetics.
Yeah, yeah. But also she does the sound production herself, all the filming. She does this amazing ASMR video called A Summer in Portland, where she films her and I think her partner going around Portland and going into all these cool little shops and just filming all the cool jewelry and all the little toys you can buy. And then it ends with them, I think, going to a concert and then going to a beach. And so she'd like impose all the fire crackling on the beach, and she'd softly narrate the whole video, and it's just so cool. I just want to be
Go to
there.
Portland.
I just want to be. Yeah, but then she'd also had this like immersive videos. Like she's a mermaid. She dresses up and does her makeup as if she's a mermaid, and I don't know how.
Like makeup mermaids wear.
But it's like really dramatic and shiny and blue, and like it's really cool. So she's actually like in water somehow, like, you know, just like softly, and she's got all this superimposed like clicking with a like you can't even tell what she's saying, but all this whispering and clicking, and it really feels as if you're there with her, and she's just doing a thing, and it's just really cool. So yeah, I'm a big fan of hers because she really puts you in the scenario. I don't actually get a lot of tingles from her though. I just like watching her videos because they're really cool.
Just sheer entertainment.
Yeah. Fast ASMR and Ting Ting ASMR, who have very kindly said that we can use examples of their work in this podcast. They definitely give me the most tingles. Because, yeah, Fast ASMR, she definitely does what she says. It's just about 5 minutes and, yep.
And you've
you want to go to
experienced
sleep.
it.
Yep.
Well, how about, you mentioned Ting Ting ASMR. We've actually got a clip we could listen to, a video of hers, which will come through in audio form. How about we have a listen and you can sort of just talk me through what's happening.
Yes.
Cool.
That sounds great.
Let's do it.
Hi guys. Welcome back.
So this is Ting Ting ASMR Brain Melting Sleep Treatment More Binaural Triggers is the name of this little clip. This is the tapping you're talking about?
Yes. That's why I chose this clip. It's all my favorites all in one.
Today, I just use my black nail polish.
And you can't obviously see because this is audio, but she looks gorgeous, which is always pleasant
Do you
to...
think that's a factor in enjoying it?
Yes. It's always good to see what the person is doing, and if they're an attractive person, it definitely helps. I mean, it's just like anything, like if you're a pretty girl, you're going to get a lot of views. That's just how it goes. But I also feel that females get more views just simply because females are seen as more nurturing. You know, they're not... They're seen as
Culturally, yeah.
nurturing, safe gender, and I guess a lot of people get ASMR because of their mothers. That's what I've read on forums and Reddit and that sort of thing.
It reminds them of being like, oh, I got a boo-boo, and she like put a plaster on me or whatever.
Perhaps, yeah. Are you feeling anything at all?
Are you?
Yes.
So what do you feel? What's the physical sensation?
I guess I don't know. I personally feel as if kind of not like blood is rushing to that portion of the head and kind of making my hair stand on end, and it's kind of trickling down to the base of my neck in a very pleasant, relaxing way. So it's kind of sucking up all the tension in my body and kind of draining it away.
Well, it's like I said to Grant before, I do know what it's like to get a shiver down your spine from other things. Like it might be the anticipation of, I don't know, oh, I'm about to watch this movie that I've been waiting for 4 years for it to come out, and you're like, oh, this is so exciting, or as I said to Grant, listening to a really good song, like, is it comparable to any of those other sensations to you?
Well, listening to a good song and getting that kind of excitement shiver, it's a different thing. That's called frisson.
Because I was going to say, I have experienced it when I listen to a really good song, like, especially if there's like lyrics or something that are really, either have a lot of meaning, like, and there's a Mobb Deep song where Prodigy says, and that you pulled ain't do me no damage, you don't know me, but we about to change that, wrap that up like a package, all them, and I was just like, oh.
Well, it is very similar, but different. Yeah. You can't plan it. You can't say, oh yeah, I'm going to feel it at this point, at this part of the ASMR video. It's completely involuntary. Like in Frisson, I feel that if you listen to a really good song, like The Brightest Beyond by a band called All Smiles, when that guitar solo comes in, oh my gosh, yes. But it's always that point because I'm anticipating it. There's a tension and release, and it's caused by the music. Whereas ASMR, you just can't plan it. You just put yourself into that relaxed state, and it just happens.
Did the very first video you ever heard work? Like, or did you try a couple before you're like, oh wow, this is a thing?
I can't remember. It's quite a while ago now. Was it about 2 years? So yeah, I don't know.
And what makes you go to it? Is it like, oh, I got to get that brain orgasm fix, or you need it to help you sleep, or what are the situations where you go to it for?
It's usually when I'm bored and I've run out of things to look at on the internet, to be completely honest, and I'm ready to go to sleep. It's like, oh, okay.
You've exhausted all the
Gmail,
episodes of What a Predicament.
Looked at my Facebook, yeah. Looked at my Reddit, and now I just want to sleep, pretty much.
So what's a good place to start if people wanted to try and get into it?
I guess think back on a particular time that you remember feeling especially relaxed, and go from there. I mean, there can be some terrible ones. Like, I know for me as an actress, I hate bad acting, and there are so many different scenarios. So, for example, there'll be a scenario of you going to a clinic, and the ASMR artist their face is always taking up the whole screen, and they'll be that they always have the same script, like, hello, welcome to my channel, da blah 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 blah, da 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 da.
Like and subscribe.
Take a seat. Oh, no, not really. But I mean, they always follow. It's like for some reason they've got it in their heads that they need to follow the same. It's like their speech pattern has to follow the same terrible meter that isn't realistic at all, and they're just looking really uncomfortable and awkward. And the best ASMR artists are the ones that just appear completely natural. So, for example, gentle whispering is really, really good. Heather Feather, Ting Ting ASMR is great. Fast ASMR, she doesn't actually do many acting scenarios. She's just good at, actually creating the sensations, which is just what you want. So, and she knows what she's about because she's called Fast ASMR, So there are some great ones out there, like ASMR Barber, who is hilarious. So what he does is he just goes to all these different places, all around the world, and he'll have a camera on him, and you watch him getting massaged. And I think for people like me, is that empathetic experience. So you're watching someone receive pleasure, and in turn, you get pleasure as well. Which I don't know how. I mean, it must be common because he's got millions and millions of views. But he'll go to India and he'll get this incredible, magical head massage by this Indian dude on top of this mountain in the middle of nowhere. And this Indian dude will be standing up and he'll be grabbing spirits out the air and going and really scrubbing his head. And it's just hilarious, but it's awesome.
But he's mic'd his head up somehow so you can hear the scratching sounds.
Yeah. I mean, again, to me, it doesn't do anything for me personally, that type of stuff, but it's really funny to watch. But the actual empathetic, slow brushing of the hair or stroking of the arms or anything like that really does it for me. Yeah.
So what sort of ASMR would you make? I mean, we've got some microphones. Do you want to have anything you want to try?
Yeah, I saw an interesting book out there, so
You could read.
yeah, I'll give it a go.
Oh, we might not have the copyright of the contents of the book, but
That's fine. I'll just talk about the book.
this is a great book. Okay, let's do this.
Hey guys, this is Marissa from Skinny Black Chick ASMR. Today I have a book. It's called My Grandma and I. Now, I'm probably not allowed to read from this book because I haven't asked permission. But I will certainly stroke the pages for you. Alex is looking very perplexed. So I hope you enjoyed my first ever ASMR video. Well, audio. Crap. Goodbye, guys.
Was there anything else on ASMR?
Yes, I guess. As a PSA, really, if you suffer from anxiety, you should give it a try because that's one of the main reason I kept with it. I guess I probably did watch a few ASMR videos and didn't feel anything, but continued to find something that worked because 1 in 4 Kiwis have either anxiety or they get panic attacks or they have a terrible phobia that they can't overcome. So it's a cheap and easy way to relax. So you might as well try it if you can't afford therapy right now or you're feeling depressed or like me, you're too poor to go have a massage every week. So if you want that feeling of personal attention, and again, this is why I don't really have massages because I kind of hate people talking to me while I'm trying to relax, especially if you're in a captive scenario like you're getting your hair cut and
You're in the chair and
you're in the
person's
chair.
got blades.
Yeah, they've got blades and they're making you talk about yourself and you just don't want to talk. You just want to relax and actually experience the ASMR. That's actually a big place where I get ASMR outside
in
of
the
the
real
computer.
world.
Yeah, when I'm in the chair and someone's cutting my hair. So if you can't handle, if you're like me and you're a bit of a antisocial hermit, you just want to be an antisocial hermit sometimes, it's a great way just to relax, forget about whatever troubles or anxiety you have in the moment and reset your emotions. Yeah.
Beautiful. How have you enjoyed being a co-host?
It's been pretty cool.
I think it's worked out all right. Never had a co-host before, so how do you think you did?
Probably like a 6.5, 7 out of 10.
Well, shiver me timbers. Thanks for listening. Hope you got something out of that, whether it was a delicious brain shiver or just a bit more knowledge than you did before. Thanks to Fast ASMR and Ting Ting ASMR, the ASM artists who generously let us use excerpts from their work. We've linked to both of their YouTube channels in the description of this episode. Thanks to guest co-host Marissa and to Professor Searchfield from the University of Auckland. Social media, there is a Watercat Productions Twitter, but I don't really use it that much. I am on the gram, however. So the one social medium I am actually posting stuff to is at Watercat Productions on Instagram. If you have any predicaments you want explored or anything like that. Season 3 of What a Predicament is going to continue the fortnightly format of Season 2, so look out for a new episode in around 14 days with a new co-host. Will be a bit awkward if I have more chemistry with them than with my betrothed, so don't miss it. Smell you later. Even after all that, no amount of ASMR can help me relax when I'm stuck up this cliff with no way to get down. It's so frustrating, I could practically erupt. Oh no, this mountain's actually a volcano, isn't it? It's just gonna blow, and I've got no way to get down. Now that's what I call a predicament, and not just for branding purposes.